analyze and then come forward to see how we can make it better. Now, Dr. Sangsa actually now heads the Youth Start, and she has expanded it. So I just wanted to just bring a few points on this so you understand. Now, we want to be more interactive with the community. Previously, people needed to come to UTT, to the incubating services provided by Youth Start, but we found that is not the best way to go. We need to go to people. So one of the new sort of initiatives of the Youth Start, the brand new Youth Start, is that Dr. Sangsa and team will be going to the various communities right through the country to hear what are the ideas and how can we boost, business, right, entrepreneurship in all the communities in Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, only yesterday during a presentation by one of my PhD candidates on, same entrepreneurship in this time of COVID, I did mention that if we really want to transform the economy, that maybe public policy should shift away from oil and gas, which we have been accustomed to, spending heavy amounts of money into these sort of capital-intensive industries for a few jobs, and maybe devote a bit more money to small and medium-sized and mini businesses, and they hire more people than anybody else, as the statistics will show in the United States. Some 80-something% of the people who are hired in the private sector are from small companies. So if you really want to transform the economy, then that's what we need to do. And if that is the case, then your roles, the examples that you're setting, that you are going to be exemplars for the new Trinidad and Tobago, in terms of a sort of change economy from oil and gas to knowledge and entrepreneurship and innovation. So this is, so I want you to not underestimate what you're doing. Remember that Steve Jobs started his factory, his business in a garage. Just bear in mind, not too different from Bill Gates. So small seeds grow into large trees. So I would want to encourage you to do that. I want to wish you the best. And I want to say to you, please continue relationship with UTT. And Nadine, I would suggest, Dr. Sangster, that you draw upon these distinguished panelists as you go out to serve as role models and mentors for people, other people out there to get them in. So again, welcome. It's really a privilege, and I mean that, a privilege to have you all here to discuss. So again, thank you and good evening. And let me apologize if I do slip out. I'm going to look at the recordings later on. Today has not been a good day for me. The COVID, I think this morning, we had to shut down one part of a campus in Tamana and a whole variety of issues we are looking at. So please forgive me if I slip off, but again, welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much, President, for those welcoming remarks. So I'd just like to remind our viewing audience at this time that you may feel free to participate in the webinar by posting your questions on the YouTube chat. And at the end of the presentation from the panelists, we will have some time to take your questions and give you some answers and maybe have a short panel discussion. So having said that, we'd like to get into what we're here for, to hear from the panelists. And as I said, the panelists are going to tell us a little bit about their business, their journey, and of course, how they have been coping in these times. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Ms. Neha Dawar. Ms. Dawar is a fashion designer and graduate of the University of Trinidad and Tobago with a successful brand called Neha Karina. She's the first in the Caribbean to manufacture Indian clothing locally with a full garment station. And the Neha Karina boutique is located at the Hilton Trinidad. Neha is also a Kathak dancer in the Indian classical arts in India by her guru Lal. Ms. Dawar is also a television host on TV Jagrati of the show Coffee and Lipstick, with Neha as well as a pageant franchise holder and national director of Mrs. Teen India Worldwide, Trinidad and Tobago. So, Ms. Dawar, thank you for being here, and I'd like to pass over to you.
Thank you, and all protocol observed. So, thank you for having me on your panel discussion. today for UTT, University of West Indies. University of Trinidad and Tobago. I am very happy and honored to be a graduate of the University of Trinidad and Tobago. Without the knowledge that I received from the University of Trinidad and Tobago, I don't think I will be where I am today, because I graduated from the fashion institution of UTT. When you think about an entrepreneur, you think, okay, they have it easy, 8 to 4 jobs there, yes. But being an entrepreneur, you have a 24-hour job. You have a job that makes you run 24 hours without sleep. Currently, I'm running 24 hours without sleep. And especially when you're in an industry where you have a hands-on job, hands-on meaning I'm a fashion designer. So garments have to be made, it's a stage process in the sense that from designing the garment to producing the garment to making sure that your customer satisfaction is everything for you for your garment. On the topic of being an entrepreneur, my journey started as a young child where I had a passion for dance. Passion for dance also means costume. Costume means performing arts. I found that in Trinidad and Tobago, I have had a limitation of beautiful costumes. We have a sector for carnival. Carnival, our culture is carnival, and we are known for beautiful costumes. We are known for this. And for me personally, being an Indian classical dancer, I was not actually finding Indian costumes for what I had to do, especially for a Kathak dancer, you spin. So when you spin, you have to take into consideration the flare of a skirt. A flare and a skirt, I was not getting that ready-made. You only had certain options and very limited options for Indian garments in our Caribbean, I should say. It was not much. It's quite a limited option. So I used to have to find ways and means to create my own garments, even just to go for dance classes. It was very hard for me to actually have a garment to go to, because you only have to go to a local cloth store and go to a tailor and get it made, because you wouldn't find the proper uniform to wear for an Indian classical dance class. From there, I just found that, when you grow up, and have, from my observation from growing up, I realized that, there's no real Indian sense of fashion. We were stuck where, okay, we will get 2 years behind of clothing or 5 years behind of clothing, Indian fashion clothing, and they were limited. This is before the Indian Expo arrived. The only option was probably Priya's creation, and of course the prices were quite high. And they had beautiful garments, but at the same time, for costuming, they did not have much, and we had limited options, limited fabrics. We didn't have much that we could have done. So I started to create my own outfits and get a design. And okay, yes, that is a basic story of what fashion, like being involved in what I found myself in. And that is because an actual journey was produced from that time, because I found myself actually making my own Indian jewelry and combining my arts with love for culture, music, and dance created me to go into marketing, because I really wanted to become a business entrepreneur. I mean, it sounds so easy, right? First, I wanted to be a doctor, and then I ended up choosing the path of being a business, a big 360 degrees turn, right? So finding myself, I thought I was good at marketing, because I think that my advice to business owners was quite remarkable. I had given a lot of people advice, and, the strategy that I make or I overcome with problems. Every business has problems, and every business has a need and a want and an issue. So the advice that was given was quite right. And that's what made me decide to go into marketing. Marketing is a good aspect. I think each business entrepreneur needs marketing, a marketing background, equally as a business background, because without a marketing background, and even though you have a business degree, I think that yes, it is quite hard to find a perfect marketing person to market your brand. You are your brand. You are what you can produce yourself. Nobody else can build your vision. It's like a dress. I will have to still hand stitch my dress and the garments and the details and the work and the craftsmanship that I need to make my dress, because if I give it to somebody else, they will not be able to produce the right aspect of my garment, which is the perfect detail. So from there, I was going into doing my marketing degree. And then I once upon a time saw my neighbor who was actually doing fashion, the fashion course in UTT. And I was so excited seeing her designs and so forth, and I found it quite interesting. So I said, you know what, I didn't even know that they had a program that offers fashion. And so I said, okay, I was applying for my marketing degree, and then I ended up applying for fashion. So I actually went and I spoke to someone there, and they said, you need to do a portfolio to represent that you actually have some kind of talent. So said, so done. I decided to do it, and I actually got in. I was quite shocked. I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. It's going to be fun. Well, lo and behold, it wasn't all that fun. It was hard work, dedication, and they will say that a doctor. I mean, I'm sorry to say that you will say that, oh, a doctor has that sleepless nights. I think I had the sleepless nights. I think that I had that place where I had that problem where I could not sleep. I had to. It was you. That program is such a beautiful program of demand and skill set, and you think that, okay, you're going to learn how to sew in a fashion course. You don't even learn. You learn the business aspect. You learn how to draw. You learn sketching. You learn sciences. You learn languages. You learn business and marketing, and it's so exciting. Yeah, that's what I said. The detail of what I learned at the University of Trinidad and Tobago has helped me into creating a core of what I am today. And I'm not saying this because I'm in a platform here. I'm saying this because it is what it is to make me. And I say it all the time, it made me. So my business journey, I would say, because I very much endorse UCC here. I had the passion for doing Indian fashion. That is where my needs were because of my Indian classical arts and music. Now, becoming that, I have always had a strategic plan. The strategic plan was to become, as I said, there were limited options for Indian clothing. The Indian clothing industry is such a wide variety. Everybody wants Indo-Western, they want certain cuts, they have certain fits. When you wear a sari blouse, right, it's ill-fitted, too big, too small, or you're forced to buy a ready-made garment. Why not make something to your style? And there was not a single person doing it in the market to say that they could bring the whole production line here. So I took the initiative to do that and also create the culture where we actually taught people to do things. We produce employment, talent, and we show them exactly what to do. You can't just say that an Indian garment, you could just take a skirt, you could cut it and make it a lehenga. It is what it is because, not everybody could wear a lehenga a certain way, or you can take one piece of cloth, but it's the creativity and teamwork that makes your brand and what you have to do to make an Indian garment, so forth, for any of these fashion designer. And that's where I decided to go into this whole entire brand. And with COVID now, I mean, I'm stretching so much in terms of the whole aspect of my brand, but that is what my brand is about. Whereas you create culture, you go into the business and all that, and then with COVID, it forced you to go online. It forced you to actually produce more, and the market is actually being very supportive to local fashion because you can't import as before. So take advantage of it. And our local talent is quite extraordinary. I think and I believe a seamstress, a tailor, a fashion designer is the most noblest profession that there is out there. Without us, there is no clothing. It is an art. And well, I think that my time is up, but what I will say is that, you have to be innovative.
No, you can go ahead for a couple more minutes, Ms. Dawar. It's very interesting. And I think our audience is particularly interested to hear where you're going with the garment industry and so on. So please.
Okay, so when it came to COVID happened, right? And that I would say that the buyership of local fashion, not only for myself, but other people, has taken off. Because right now, if you see the freights for a container, right, even to ship and duty, everybody's complaining when they're shipping from Amazon, especially, they have to pay double prices. You're just going to leave it there. And right now, $17,000 US to pay for a container is quite much. So use your resources locally. I think that our country is full of talented people where and when now they need to see that, because as much as you say, oh, we go into the US, we go into Canada to shop, we go in Dubai, we go in Europe, we want to wear the best brands, Louis Vuitton, whatever you want to call it. But look at our culture in Trinidad and Tobago. Look at what the talent has produced. Universities are here. As much as they will say that how we are in the Caribbean and we are laid back, when you do right now, the Christmas markets are coming up. How many talented people are out there right now? So we are actually the most noblest. We are really a good batch of Trinidad and Tobago right now. We are full talented. And I think that I wish that like the Ministry of Trade and Export could look into it more to actually producing in a full manufacturing outgoing to actually produce, because that is where our foreign exchange could come into play. Because I mean, our talent is quite mind-blowing. And Say asked me just now about where I see myself. I see myself as putting my wish and dream is to say that, okay, I'm talking as an Indian clothing designer. We have a culture of Indian aesthetic. We have Indian culture. We have, let's say we have Diwali Nagar, we have Indian food, we have a love of Indian flavor. We have a big culture that's a part of our culture. Our culture is beautiful. It's so cultural. And why should I be importing or buying from a foreign country? I want to be able to put our country on a made in Trinidad and Tobago label to say that we bought an Indian garment in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's on the stores in the highest fashions possible to represent our country. And that is my next step, to make this a global way forward. I mean, I want to teach people about Indian fashion. I want to be able to say that, okay, it's not only that you have to keep just buying overseas to just create that overseas platform and just be wearing. We have so much local resources that it will actually maybe come out better than ready-made stuff. I mean, we are producing at a high level, and talented people that we have in Trinidad and Tobago, I think that we can make a beautiful change. And COVID has taught a lot of us that, because it has been able for us, a lot of people, to invest in Trinidad and Tobago, because of course the foreign exchange is quite high, but at the end of the day, I think that the local support is quite well because of that reason, and two, because the talent is being shown more, and that also drives us to our actual local market in Trinidad, a local market where we have to go on to online, and online sales is what represents. I don't think that print media and television ads and radio ads will be substantial for much longer. I think that actual online media and shifting and word of mouth, do your work properly, the business will come. Your name is everything. Never think about your money. If you'll have to lose, you lose, but your name is your most noblest. And as in this country, especially, your name is what will give you virtue. Your name will give you success. And I'm proud to say that because of UTT, I was able to get that skill set. And I don't think that, anyone in the Caribbean has this fashion program, and people take this for quite granted. This whole fashion program, they think that they're going to sew, they're just going to learn pattern making. That is just a quarter of it. It's a beautiful program that I'm very honored to have learned and attended.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dawar.
Thank you so
much. Really
much.
started off good, and I thank you for painting that picture for us and giving us a little bit about the background and the landscape of the fashion industry here, and how you're trying to find that synergy in the clothing sector and so on within Trinidad and
I'm
Tobago.
sorry for taking too much time.
It's perfectly fine. We appreciate it, actually. As I say, this is the first of its kind in terms of this webinar, and having our entrepreneurs speak about their experiences. It's important for us to learn from each other and to grow as an entrepreneurial university as well. So we thank you, Ms. Dawar. I would like to invite now our second speaker. So another graduate from the University of Trinidad and Tobago, we have Mr. Kiwi Howard. And Mr. Kiwi Howard is the managing director and the founder of a company called KP Technovation, which he started in 2018. The company's design and manufacturing engineer, Mr. Howard, aims to bring a young and vibrant touch to the aging engineering population of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, so Mr. Howard is regional. He was one of our regional students at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are very proud to have Mr. Howard as part of our engineering program in design and manufacturing. So the goal of his company is also to introduce new manufacturing services, such as 3D modeling and printing. And the mission of his company is to deliver quality in service and workmanship, surpassing expectations, creating a safe and healthy work environment, building a relationship on ethics and morals with co-workers, customers, and the society, while promoting values where full potential can be met. Mr. Howard, I invite you to tell us a little bit again about your business, some of the challenges, and how you're coping in the current climate.
Right. Well, good evening all presenters, members of USTART, the Mechanical Engineering and Manufacturing Unit, fellow presenters, and everybody on YouTube viewing the stream. As Mr. Morali said, KP Technovation is a business based in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where we do light manufacturing, general machining, 3D printing, 3D modeling, mechanical consultancy, and general mechanical repairs. So the business, as highlighted, was founded in 2018 when I left Trinidad, graduating the manufacturing design program. So the business is aiming to work in with the industries such as the light manufacturing industry, the automotive sector, and the marine sector of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. During our time in business, we were able to hire and train some youngsters in preparing them for the workforce of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'd like to touch on my experience at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. I successfully completed the Bachelor's of Applied Science in Manufacturing and Design. And this program, for me, was an eye-opener into a lot of new technologies, practices, and opportunities that I had no previous knowledge of before. The lecturers were very helpful. They also were able to guide us on the journey, and they were very professional. I made a lot of friends in Trinidad, and they helped me balance the social and academic life of studying in Trinidad. The manufacturing and design program was also one of the major factors that pushed me to start in KP Technovation, and I learned so much in that program. One highlight of the manufacturing and design program is the opportunity I was given to work on a unique final year project, which was the roll-up steel pan, which I must shout out and give a thanks to Dr. Umesh Prasad for that opportunity. Right? Touching on the pandemic and how it affected business, the COVID pandemic came at an abrupt time in early 2020, and the business, while business didn't stop, it slowed down. So we had to, while the same cost of operating business was there, we had to try other means to survive during the pandemic. So I remember one of my friends who was a frontline worker, we had a conversation and we were talking about the discomforts of wearing masks. So I quickly brainstormed and did some research, right? And I found a device called the Air Saver, which eases the strain of the mask on the face. So I modified the design I saw and 3D printed some samples. As I said, 3D printer was a new thing I learned, so I put that to use. And the samples were successful, and I was able to 3D print these Air Saver device and give to the general public, and this helped with any COVID situation. This helped a lot financially for business that was slow, as business slowed down. Also, the major services of KP Technovation, we were having some problems because of the pandemic. People wasn't leaving their homes, bringing jobs because they feared to contract the virus. However, we were able to pivot into a more delivery and pickup service where we had to go to the customer, get the job done on site, or pick up the job and bring it back to the shop to do. That this was very challenging as we ourselves wanted to stay safe, but work had to be done. So that was one challenge of the pandemic. In addition to the COVID pandemic, here in St. Vincent, we had the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano. This halted business for some weeks, right? And we had to do a lot of cleaning up. A lot of ash was in the air. It was very difficult to work, but the cleaning up process took a while. But during this time, we were able to put new things in place to execute business, learn a lot more. And through the COVID pandemic and the volcanic eruption, KP Technovation was able to survive. And yes, I thank you. This is, I thank for this opportunity, and thank you, Mr. Amaradi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Howard, for your comments. And we take them and we understand the situation. As I said, we hope that things get better in the near future. But thank you very much, Mr. Howard. I would like to invite our third speaker. So we have with us Nurse Arlene Nisus. So Nurse Nisus is a member of staff at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. Nurse Nisus worked as a registered nurse at a public hospital where she noticed many elderly persons being admitted with preventable conditions that may have been caused by poor home care. She saw a need for raising the bar in home care, and it was for the sake of the elderly. 5 years later, Nice Us Geriatric continues to grow and touch the lives of so many along the way. Currently, Nurse Nisus is also the senior nurse at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce and the USTART program. She's also a successful participant of the recently concluded Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, supported by the US Embassy. Welcome, Nurse Nisus. I will pass over to you.
Hi, good day to all protocols duly observed, and welcome. So I will be short and sweet. Nisus Geriatric. Our main objective is to end elder abuse. And we will do this, we will do this by ensuring that we have a system for the home care industry. The issue now is that there is no system. There's nothing in place to really monitor what is going on. And when I observed what was going on in the hospital, I decided to do something about it because I met a gentleman. He was in I would not describe the state he was in, but because of what he went through, he had to, we saved him actually, but I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And so how we do this, we have a system of quality assurance where a registered nurse works with a certified caregiver. The first step is that we do a needs assessment. So the registered nurse will do a needs assessment for the client to find out exactly what is their specific home care needs. Well, what are their specific home care needs? And then she will design a plan of care using what we call the nursing process. It is a technical skill that nurses use in order to design care plans for our patients in hospital. I tweaked it to be incorporated into the home care setting. And from there now, the certified caregiver is on board with that plan, and the certified caregiver delivers the care, and the registered nurse now comes in and makes sure, using tools that I designed to pull out key performance indicators to ensure wellness and to look for deterioration. That's something that a lot of people don't realize, that the elderly is so close to that level where they can deteriorate from a simple thing as dehydration, from a simple thing as constipation. It can reach to such an issue where it can take away their lives, and they are very fragile. But once you know what to do, it is easier to be done. And so this is why we started it in the first place, because the Ministry of Social Development has a mandate as well to make sure that we abide by all the national and international standards for the elderly, and you hear so many horrible stories. I personally on the ground, I hear so many horrible stories of the elderly. And my take is this: it's either you die young or you live old. And so I can benefit from it, you can benefit from it, we can all benefit from it. And the elderly deserve to be loved, they deserve to be cherished and respected because you work so hard. I've met persons who put up the first set of light poles in Trinidad and Tobago. I've met persons who were pivotal in the foundation that we know as, you know, an economy, and they deserve the best because being elderly it's not a punishment, it's a blessing, right? So for my presentation, I would like to just share, I love the whole theme, culture of success. The word culture to me means ideas or behavior according to Google, but success. So I love to read. And one of the persons I'm very passionate of reading and following up YouTube videos and so on is Earl Nightingale. And Earl Nightingale said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. So it does not mean you have to be there. It means that you're going towards it. And I think COVID, and as the president stated, I am your nurse. So as the president stated of the situations that we have, feel free to contact me, UTT. Feel free to contact me, please. Great. Go on the internet and get my information. Okay, back to the presentation. So COVID taught us that we need to be moving, move as much as we can. And I know that a lot of people see the glam and the glitz of entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship, I've been about 6 years an entrepreneur and many more as a hustler, right? And the thing about entrepreneurship is that it is not for the faint-hearted, and you have to always be on the ball, on the go, right? So if you're thinking of coming in, great, but let me give you these 5 tips on how to navigate not only during COVID, but any aspect with regards to entrepreneurship itself. So you must have an online presence, right? I remember when I started, I was really, really focused on having a website. And I was actually advised not to have a website, don't put so much money into a website. And I was like, no, I need my website. And I am so happy that I invested in a wonderful website. So now I have online presence. I have persons looking at my website. Great time to plug in. Go to www.niceusgeriatric, NICEUSGERIATRIC.com. Every week, every Sunday, we post blogs on how to care for the elderly, tips on how to care for the elderly. So you get tips, you can use it. You can use it for your parents if your parents are still alive, someone that you know, because it's always great. Sometimes you don't even know the simplest of things that you can do to light up an elderly person's life, and you may need it at some point in time. So go on our website, www.niceusgeriatric.com, and check out our blog. And having that online presence, especially social media presence, it was very, very important. And it will be, everyone is looking at that aspect. Online presence is key, right? Visibility, always be visible, and be visible where your target market is. And then you have to know who your target market is, because it is good to talk to persons who have already reached where you are or where you want to go in order to determine who your real target market is. Because you may think it is someone else, but it is not, right? So that's key. Always remember that. Your net worth, this is the 3rd one, and your network is your net worth. I remember joining UTT, so I was a registered nurse for 9 years at San Fernando General Hospital, and then I got the opportunity to come at UTT, and I took it because I loved being an occupational health nurse. And walking around, I saw a little fair going on at Current when we were down at Current, and I saw Inchan, and I was like so piqued at what was going on. And then I saw the whole USTAT thing, and he was like, you know, from the time he started, I was like, this is me. And I signed up, and I was able to get seed funding, and I was able to take my company to another level that I would not have thought of, because I was thinking as a nurse. I needed to think like an entrepreneur, and I had no idea how to do that. And so many people don't understand thinking like an entrepreneur is a whole other mindset. And you need to pivot and learn. And use that program helped me to reach there. Not only that, interest-free loan. Hey, I don't know if they're doing that still, but it was amazing. And that is why I will tell everyone about UStart. It is something, and UTT is the entrepreneurial university. It makes so much sense. Come UTT, either staff, alumni, or student, get into the UStart program, go into entrepreneurship. We see time and time again from COVID with businesses shutting down and facilities shutting down, with Patrician and safe jobs shutting down. You cannot depend on anyone anymore. Take your life and your financial journey into your hands and get into UStart and get on the entrepreneurial journey, because you can't give your children a job now, can you? But you can give them a business, right? The fourth one, prepare for opportunities. And you need to prepare for, when I say prepare for them, I mean always be looking, always be there, right? Because I told my network about my company, someone saw the US Embassy doing the launch for the Academy for Women Entrepreneurship, and they contacted me one time, and I was on the webinar. I was right there. I filled out the application form one time. As the launch finished, I pressed send with my application because I knew what I wanted and I knew where I wanted to be, right? And I was in that program and met so many great persons. You know, we graduated, you know, so it was really, really nice. Always look for the opportunities. Because of UStart, I was able to start with the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber with the chamber, right? And I started as an incubator student, and I paid $56 to sign up, right? Not only look for the opportunity, but look for the free ones as well as the cheap ones, because time, I mean, it's costing money. Everything is costing money, and where you can save a dime, save it. So even though I'm only allowed 2 years with the chamber under the incubator status, it is an absolutely great opportunity. And with being with the chamber, I got a lot of information, especially on tariffs and different, you associate with different businesses. I'm increasing my network, persons are seeing my name. You get the opportunity to advertise with the chamber on member to member. So I can advertise free of charge, and they're sending my business to a lot of different businesses, and they are my target group, you know, persons who are professionals, who have elderly persons, you know, they are my target group. So really, really look at the opportunities. And the last and final thing is never stop thinking. I literally have pretend sales projections on where I want my company to be. I always think about how I want the office to look like. What is the next step? What else I want to, you know, see my company go. And then you not only think, but get feedback. I need to listen to my clients. What are they? What are their problems? What is bothering them? How can I improve? How can I make their experience better? Because my group is the elderly, and the elderly people don't like to listen to them. And so I need to listen to them to find out how I can make their life better, how I can make their life more, you know, the experience of living. They don't have much time again. So I give you these 5 tips. You all look at UStart, go on the website and check it out. It changed my life. It can change yours. Yeah? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nurse Nisus. That was particularly interesting, actually, to listen to how you were able to marry being an entrepreneur with a registered nurse. And I'm sure our viewing audience would like to hear some more about it. I would remind the viewing audience as well on YouTube, feel free to post your questions in the chat. And at the end of our presentations, we will have a little time remaining that we'll be able to probably field some of your questions. I would like to move on now to our 4th presenter. Well, we have presenters. And in this case, we actually have a husband and wife combination. So we have Mr. Dionisio Salazar and Mrs. Desta Francis Salazar, and they're the directors of Soap Sanctuary Caribbean Limited. Their company is an established limited liability company engaged in the manufacture of handcrafted natural personal care products. The company is managed by its co-founders and was formed from a passion and inherent desire to utilize natural versus conventional and traditional man-made chemical-based personal care products for exfoliating, moisturizing, and maintaining healthy skin. The products are manufactured with a view towards captivating 4 out of your 5 senses. So Mr. and Mrs. Salazar, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I must first and foremost really share my appreciation for UTT because Dr. Sangster and Dr. Amarali, I am from the days when it was called IIEM. So I go all the way back, and choosing to do that particular master's, I could have done master's in any particular field, but UTT offered me something that no other institution at that point in time offered, which was an opportunity to expand your knowledge, not in something that is purely theoretical, but mix industry and business and critical thinking and know-how, the practical nature of it, which has allowed me to this day. I use a lot of innovation thinking, a lot of the concepts, a lot of the experiences, even the contacts in formulating this business. So I'm ever so grateful for UTT and all the professors, not to mention the UStart program, as well as the store. So I'm eternally grateful. So let's just get into the presentation. It's just a brief presentation the order of the presentation will be a little bit about the company, and then we will go into some of the challenges and how we overcame that. We'll try to do it in about 5 minutes. So building a culture of success, this is our mission. This is always foremost in our minds. What we do, this is what we do to manufacture and promote through engagement, the use of alternative personal care products and accessories that are natural, safe, and environmentally friendly. And the focus is on all of those things: natural, safe, and environmentally friendly. Safe because once you are in the business of manufacturing and once you're offering personal care products or any products, and once you have to shelf it, you need to be able to preserve it in some safe manner. So that is why we stress on that.
And if I may add, Soap Sanctuary Caribbean Limited has always held to the triple bottom line concept, which is people, planet, and profit. And now the world is now talking about ESG, which is environmental, social, and corporate governance, basically. And we are actually looking at how what we have been doing over the years has now morphed into this. And we have actually been, in our minds, ahead of the curve with our concepts. And that stems from our entire value chain.
Right. Then we came into this environment. Sorry, we are closed due to COVID restrictions. So that was our business environment for a couple of months, for a couple of months. Well, this is how it affected us. Right. This is a snapshot of our processes, very simplified version. We conduct research, suppliers, customers, we have the engagement, we have the logistics, costing, manufacturing, finished products, distribution, end of use cycle. I have suppliers and customers throughout that process, because what we recognize during this entire COVID, we look at suppliers, yes, and we look at customers, yes, but we look at them in terms of silos and not understanding how the relationship, the interrelationship. For instance, when we conduct our research, we conduct our research in terms of our suppliers. Where do we look for suppliers? Most of our raw materials, we don't produce in the region, but what we can get from the region, we do obtain from the region. So we always have to have that in our headspace. What happened in the region? A couple years ago, we had a hurricane that affected one of our major suppliers, and we had to seek alternative suppliers. In the sphere of COVID-19, what was happening is that a lot of supplier relationship changed. So we had to now negotiate terms that we could have gotten before we were not getting, right? So customers, our customer, in terms of their spending power, that changed as a result, because our product is not the run-of-the-mill normal bar soap. It's different. The process is different. What we have is the glycerin, which is usually extracted from the conventional bar soap and put into other products like creams. When you do natural soaps, it's locked into it. So our products, the pricing is quite different. So when we have a situation where you have loss of jobs, uncertainty, general uncertainty, fear, these things tend to affect how your customers purchase. So what we have had to do is really look at our pricing and really look at to see how we can reduce our costs that we can manage, our costs, which will hit us right into the manufacturing process, eliminate some of the wastages, look at the lines that we are producing, produce the lines that are in greater demand, which has the higher profit margin. Not for us to maintain our profit margin, you know, what we actually did is to reduce our profit margin and bring that into the consumer. Because at all times we want to ensure that customer value, at least in COVID, we at least like to sustain that customer value. Engagement and procurement, pretty much. The engagement and the procurement, the suppliers, the customers, how do we engage? How do we continue to engage our clients? We had with engagement, yes, everybody's online. The space became very crowded during COVID, crowded with a whole lot of information, be it with COVID, the deaths, the fatalities. How do you carve out? We found ourselves a bit crowded out in the market space. So we had to carve out a space for Soap Sanctuary. So what we started to do is post not only about our products, but post more health and general well-being, things that would interest people aside from just your products, because you don't want it at that point in time, given the sensitivity of the situation. You don't want it to seem as if all you're interested in is just pushing your business, right? In terms of engagement with suppliers, some of our suppliers could not meet our because of shipping, the logistics, shipping, foreign exchange was an issue to come by. It became very difficult to get foreign exchange, delays at the port. We still have, to a large extent, supply chain delays, and we still have issues with shipping, right? The final costing of raw material, that was a big issue because, you know, with COVID, you know, prices keep escalating, at least for our line of business. Case in point, rubbing alcohol. We use a lot of rubbing alcohol in terms of sterilize equipment and that kind of thing. That is major. And you know how the prices of rubbing alcohol just shot through the door with COVID. So we had to, and there is no substitute for that. So what we had to do is come up with a strategy and look at the final cost of our raw material. Right, the manufacturing process, as I explained to you before, we eliminated wastages. We look at our lines and see, okay, which should we produce? And we tied that directly to our raw material and raw material costs and availability. So we had to make sure all those ducks were lined up in order for us to bring in now our products competitively. We even reduced the price. Finished products to suppliers and customers. A couple of instances, we weren't able to get the same suppliers. Of course, if you're trying out a supplier for the first time, there is always a risk of product quality. There was always a risk of that. So we had to look at that carefully, and we had to even engage our customers more because of that. So we had to manage that situation. Distribution, marketing, and packaging. Very, very important. Again, part of our ethos in Soap Sanctuary Caribbean is that our packaging is an extension of the product. So very often our packaging is either, the minimum is 50% recyclable. Most of the time it's compostable. You can use the bags for other things. That is how we incorporate that aspect, the environmental aspect, into our business. So again, we face the same challenges with rising costs. We face the same challenges with availability. Sometimes you get, sometimes you don't get. Sometimes maintaining the quality of the packaging itself when you're dealing with different suppliers. Again, what we could have sourced locally or regionally, we did that. If not, what we had to do is rework our packaging. end of use cycle, suppliers and customers as well. What we look at is making in this space and time where we had COVID, a lot of emphasis was placed on one's health and also to a lesser extent on the environment. Because I don't know if you all recall, during COVID, there were a lot of pictures of rivers and beaches seeming to be rejuvenated. So that was an opportunity for us to really look at and tie the whole experience together. It was a bad experience, but it's one that we believe in every bad experience, there should always be a learning lesson and should always use an opportunity for you to take it to the next level. So we looked at that as a general awareness. What our challenge would be is to sustain that level of awareness. We have the COP take, no, that is the big conversation, and the 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is the aim. So we want to use these opportunities now to really tie our product with the environment and to appeal to that particular niche. Next slide.
And you have the challenge of the unvaccinated.
Right. Oh, and he reminded me, one of the other challenges in terms of the manufacturing environment is we had to convince or reassure individuals about our processes and our workers themselves. And we of course we had to face in real way workers who, for one reason or another, vaccine hesitancy. So that was a real issue and still continues to be an issue, right, in the environment. What we did, so we looked at not just building a culture of success, we want to be able to sustain it. So these are the things that we needed to do. We are rebranding our online presence. We want to make it more interactive. COVID forced us to look at our business model. We want, or we need to be more agile than we were before, a greater level of agility. How are we going to do it? We get in there. But the level of agility, this is what we require at this point in time. We need to formulate a method of capturing new ideas. Throughout that process, you see the previous slide, we showed suppliers and customers. Built into that is our employees, right? Be it whether because our employees, we don't have full-time, we have more contract employees. But while they are within our employ, we want to be able to harness their creativity and their innovation and their ideas. So that is one of the things that we want to be working on. A new market focus. The short-term market focus is Tobago. Our next market focus is going to be outside of Trinidad and Tobago, right? We definitely going outside of Trinidad and Tobago. Our new pricing strategy, that's a work in progress, and deeper customer engagement. We want, there is always an opportunity and there's always benefit in getting closer to your customer. And we don't feel that we are close enough to the customer. And COVID showed us that. So we want to get even closer to the customer, right? And of course, when you get closer to your customer, when you get closer to your customer, you can then utilize their ideas into your business. Because as your customer grows and as your relationship with them grows, you find that they do speak to you. And one thing I have learned is when your customer speaks to you, you need to listen, whether it is a good or a bad. You need to listen, because the bad one is actually going to give you an opportunity to improve. The most dangerous is when they don't speak at all, right? So this is what we did, some of our challenges, what we need to do. And we would like to thank you. I don't know how well I did for time, but we'd like to thank you very much.
As usual, spot on, Esther. Thank you very much. Most interesting to hear about your product cycle, your business processes, and how you're able to sustain that culture of success. Thank you very much to you and, of course, Dionisio for sharing that presentation with us. And now we move on to our final presenter, our final panelist for this evening. So we have Mr. Brian Perry. Mr. Perry is the Managing Director of Coded Arts Limited. The company is an interactive media company in Trinidad, and it was founded by Mr. Andy Berhazar Jr. and Mr. Brian Perry. The company focuses on developing itself and its members in game development, virtual reality, software development, 3D modeling, outsourcing, and animation. Its vision is to be a leader in the Caribbean region and a major player in the Latin American region. Coded Arts Limited has invested in future technologies such as its virtual reality and motion capture equipment. Mr. Perry, the managing director, admits that the activities that come with developing a different culture will always be an innovative and adaptive process. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Perry. I pass over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone, all the presenters and everyone that's viewing live on YouTube. As mentioned, my name is Brian Perry, and I am representing Coded Arts. So I want to talk a bit about the journey that I've been on, which has been quite a journey, I must say. I originally am from the United Kingdom, and I came over to Trinidad and Tobago to study because I wanted to get into programming, and both my parents are from Trinidad and Tobago as well. So I decided to move with them as they wanted to come back home. And I thought that the idea of changing culture might have a different approach to my view of certain things. I always wanted to be a programmer. I've always wanted to own my own business. And to be very honest, I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going to start. I just knew I wanted to come to Trinidad, enjoy the lifestyle down here, and get to school. Was I wrong? I came, I joined the software engineering program at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and I met a great group of individuals with great minds, and some with actually the same like mindset as my own. And I moved here when I was 16, enrolled into the program, went through the engineering course and so forth, which was very, very, very difficult. I still amaze myself to know that I completed that course. And when I finished, one of the things that I realized for me personally was that coming into being a programmer and looking at the industry and the landscape and the culture that Trinidad and Tobago had at the point in time, there wasn't a large sector with regards to game development, yet alone animation and so forth. So my brilliant idea was to group together with a group of my friends and let's start a new business in an industry that close to does not exist within the country at a very young age. That too was a very scary process. And it was very challenging in the first few days because a lot of my friends were still in school and a lot of them were either finishing the diploma program and going on to their bachelor's, some wanted to go into their master's. And for a very long period, we weren't really making any kind of money. We were just spending time working on internal projects. And we thankfully were introduced to the U-Start program. And I believe the U-Start program was the saving grace that helped us. It made things so much easier because it, one, provided us with an office space that we could have all worked out from. It allowed for us to have a central location to go to. And given the fact of our age and that we were now just starting a brand new business, it also sort of felt kind of nice to say, I'm going to the office. You know, you wake up in the morning and you're going to the office like everyone else in the world, they're going to the office. quite a few days in the office were spent almost doing absolutely nothing. And then there were days where there was the painstakingly hassle of learning and figuring out a lot of the things that other companies within the industry, not locally but internationally, already knew, already had teams built around setting up the infrastructure for certain things and doing certain things. And we're a group of teenagers, some of us in our early 20s. We've got little to no experience at all. So YouTube was quite literally our best friend. After the university, YouTube was our next online university. And we spent many days just going through different videos, learning different things, doing research, trying to figure out what was the best course of action to build this company and this brand that we just started, right? What was the best ways of doing things? And the U Start program guided us so much with regards to the business side of things, which you don't think about. Everyone thinks you start a business, you have a product, you have an idea, let's go and let's do it. And that's what we got to focus on. But then we get the reminder, do you have your business plan? Do you have the presentations ready? Do you have your pitch ready for this? Do you have all these documents? And that was probably one of the main things that we had to learn the most about with regards to starting a business, was more the administrative side of things. Like, we had the programming skill set down, we had the animation skill set down, we had no business skill set down at all. And the U Start program and the staff of the U Start program really helped guide us in the right direction. They put us through multiple presentations, and there was something that used to happen quite often was visitors would come to see the incubator space, and almost always, because we were in the office all the time, they would send them over to our space, and we would, on the spot have to do a sort of an introduction of what our company is. And that sort of forced us into, well, where we are now. And that's why I would say my journey has been quite the journey, from those early days to what we now consider the days of COVID. And after, that process, that painstaking process of learning and figuring things out and trying different things, we tried making our own intellectual property of games. Wasn't the best bet. We tried doing things locally. Probably wasn't the best bet back then either. We tried so many different things to try and figure out where our niche was. How were we going to take the studio and the brand that we have and turn it into something that's worthwhile? And we decided that we were going to try outsourcing, and that's where we sort of geared a lot of our focus towards, where we would develop and create art content or visual content for other respective studios. And that's where we decided, okay, that's what we want to try. The industry is vast, but there was very little to no competition within the region. And therefore we're like, okay, this could probably be a good thing. We are within the right time zone for the majority of some of the international countries. We are an English-speaking nation. Therefore, we have two major things that a lot of these studios outside of Trinidad and Tobago look for when they outsource their work to other studios, maybe in India or other parts of Asia, or even in some parts of Europe. So, we realized, okay, we may be checking some boxes here. Let's try and figure something out. Let's see if this could be the thing that might work. And we invested our time into it. We invested the individuals that stayed with us from day one and went through the years of very little to no pay at all, and came into the office with very little to no pay at all, with just the idea of this dream being a possibility. And we brought in some individuals, some trainers, that through some funding that we had, and we were able to bring our staff up to the training level or the skill level that's considered what they look for in the international market. And we said, right, we have the skill set. We know what we want to do. We have the skill set down. Let's really do this. And COVID struck. And a lot of people, from a lot of the presentations that are taking place, for a lot of you, there were a lot of challenges. In our instance, that was the opposite. Given the fact that we were going into the outsourcing industry, studios needed companies to hire. COVID struck, 2 international clients, very first day, would you guys like to do some work with us? And we're like, sure, we would love to. They're like, what are your portfolio pieces? So we have a couple, these probably aren't good enough, but we said, okay, give us some time, let us polish up some of our work, and we will get back to you guys. And we took a few months, worked on some really good art assets, worked on some really good content and so forth. And then, through some connections and networking and so forth, we were able to bring on board our first customer within this new sort of sector that we're trying to get involved with. And it was the greatest feeling ever, because we had these individuals that have been with us for so many years to get to this point. And you would think when a global pandemic hits, it's like, oh God, no, things aren't going to work out well. And then the opposite happens. And as I said, the journey that we went through was lots of painstaking days and nights awake late, and then a pandemic, and things start to work out. And I think, everyone has different journeys. Everyone has different challenges that they sort of face. Thankfully, in our situation, it's been sort of slightly opposite with regards to the pandemic, but it doesn't change things, because yes, because of the pandemic, we were able to have all of our respective staff work from home, which removed the time factor of traveling to the office, and it removed the time factor of traveling home from the office. It allowed for them to wake up in the morning, go to bed at night, working, which was great. The overhead of the time delays, it kind of reduced. However, you now have another factor to take into consideration, is that we need to make sure everyone is still doing work correctly. We need to make sure that the standard doesn't drop. We need to make sure that the standard stays at the level that we kind of left things at before the pandemic happened. And one of the things that myself and Andy have always tried to do is have a very free, enjoyable environment. We don't want anyone to feel you are pressured or you're stressed or you're overworked. We want you to be passionate about what you do. And that's one of the most important things that we strictly believe or strongly believe in within the organization, is that you should always be passionate about the work that you do. Once you're passionate about it, you're going to always have a good turnaround time. So similar to when we were in the office space and we migrate to everyone working at home, Fridays, we'll make Fridays game nights or weekend game nights. And, we'll all join into a game lobby and play some games together, make everyone feel a bit more relaxed, not feel like, yes, because you're home on weekends, you have to do work. No, you can, once you're working and doing what you have to do and meeting your goals and your deadlines during the week, your time is free to do what you want to do, work on your personal projects, have your own personal time, whatever the case may be. And that was sort of our journey from the beginning to where we are now. To actually having, our own little space that we now have, that's our own little office that everyone goes to. So they now go to our office, not so much someone else's office, which was a huge feat. And it's probably one of the greatest feelings, being the 16-year-old boy to now this entire journey that I've been on. It's brilliant. And that's more or less it for my sort of journey. The last thing that I would like to do is just sort of showcase some of the work that we've done previously, one of the portfolio pieces that we created a couple months back. So I'm just going to share my screen and just have you guys just sit back and sort of enjoy this little presentation. And the final point I shall make to my presentation for anyone that has any questions about that demonstration is that, yes, everything you just saw was made 100% in-house by Coded Arts. Nothing was outsourced, nothing was bought, nothing was taken from any asset store. It was all strictly developed in-house by us within Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perry, for that very interesting topic and that conversation on how you were able to start your company, your dreams, your desires, and how you were able to fulfill it given the situation. So now to the viewing audience, we have come to that part in the program where we have a couple minutes and we would like to field some questions that you may have. So again, feel free to post your questions in the YouTube chat. I will start off by asking the panelists the first question. Here we are presented with members of staff and graduates from the University of Trinidad and Tobago. And I would like to ask the panelists then, what advice would you give a budding UTT student who may want to start his or her own business? If anyone would like to take the question or a couple of us may answer, you can simply raise your hand. And I would like to know, what advice do you have? Yes, Mr. Perry.
I think one of the things, I guess maybe from my presentation you may have gathered, is passion. If you have a high passion for something you enjoy, something you love, that makes it a little bit easier each day. If it is something that you're doing just for the sake of easy money, quick money, just to get by and so forth, it's no different than working for someone else on a 9-to-5 job. If you are passionate about something, I think that is sort of the best way to start. So if you are looking to start a business, find something you are truly passionate about. It makes the entire process a little bit easier because it's now you're doing something you enjoy, something you like, instead of just doing something for the sake of surviving. And I feel like when you start doing something just for the sake of surviving, you start to lose the initial vision you had. You sort of lose touch with why you wake up in the morning and say, why am I doing this? And I feel like if you are an entrepreneur doing something you enjoy, you should not be asking the question each day, why am I doing this? You should be saying, how can I do this better? How can I improve what I'm currently doing? And I think that's one thing that I will say, at least, that's kind of gotten me through all of these years and all of the different challenges that we faced, is being very, very passionate about what I do and what my organization does.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Mr. Howard, what advice do you offer?
Well, just to elaborate and expand on what Mr. Perry said, is the passion. The passion is very important. And when you find something that you love, don't give up on it, no matter how challenging times some things may be. And well, as a young entrepreneur, you face challenges as people saying, you just start, you shouldn't be like charging this, you shouldn't be doing this. And it may detour you at times, but most importantly, you must give up. Because your passion, make sure your passion drives what you love. And that's what I had to add. And even when you're studying at UTT, a lot of the courses may be challenging, but don't give up. Don't give up. And that's what I had to add.
Thank you very much. So keep at it, certainly. Anyone else would like to offer any advice to our budding UTT students? So I have another question. So again, as entrepreneurs, you have your own business. What do you look for when you are looking to build a team or when you are hiring employees? What would you look for?
Can I take this one quickly?
Certainly.
Okay, great. So with my team, I have to be aware that my clientele, it's very important to be professional as well as to abide by international standards with regards to healthcare. And so my interviewing process must be transparent, and it must be one where I do not sacrifice quality, and yet I be fair and have equal opportunity. Because I mean, at the end of the day, as an employer, you must abide by the rules and regulations and all the legal statutory requirements, and equal opportunity is part of it. So you have to ensure that when you are looking for your team, and your team is not only management, but persons on the floor. I mean, persons on the floor are the most important part of your team. They are the end point to your users. They are the ones with your clients. They are the ones representing you. They're supposed to personify the whole core value of the business. And so I decided what I want from my team, the vision, and then I pull out personalities and I look for those characteristics with asking specific questions and asking different scenarios and all of that, as well as I have to ensure that I abide by HR policies and, well, normal HR standards. And to do this, you learn as much as you can. We are in an information age. There's so much information out there. So YouTube, there are different little courses you can do. If you're at UTT, join You Start program, and you get to meet different lecturers. I had a problem with bookkeeping, and she arranged for me to speak with a lecturer, and she helped me realize that I was not making any money after I made my price. I took an arbitrary number out of the sky, and I was literally going to run my company to zero if I did not do something about it. So attracting the team, just make sure that you abide by the law, because you are an employer, and the law, the industrial court recognizes that the employer has a lot of power. So they know that you have a lot of responsibility. So abide by the law, know the law, abide by it. Ignorance is not an excuse. And as well, as I said before, with your leadership team now, your network may be your greatest source. And then you can expand by just personifying the characteristics of your company, your core values, personify it, and you will get, you literally be preparing yourself to see the opportunity of who I can work with, and see the opportunity of who is interested in the goal, the vision. And that's my advice. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nurse Nisus. Anyone else wanted to add to that question on what you would look for when building a team? As a follow-up to what Nurse Nisus was. Yes.
Yes, I would. And I think one of the important things to remember when building a team is that as your business goes through different cycles, your team may very well have to change, because you may recognize that the team that you started with is not the same team that you would want or is required to take the business to another level. And as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you need to recognize that. The question still remains, how then do you get that right team, quote unquote? What do you do? Very important, Ms. Nisus mentioned, is with respect to industrial courts, treating your employees, being knowledgeable about HR and HR practices and HR issues, because the work environment 10 years ago is definitely not the work environment now, and especially now with respect to COVID. For entrepreneurs with employees, the vaccine, the non-vaccinated, the policy for people like in my sector where you have a manufacturing environment and you can have disruptions, it's important that employees remember certain protocols, because if you don't follow the protocols, what will happen if there's an incident of COVID there, people may stop buying the products, everything could go haywire.
Right.
So it's important that you have that level of engagement. Another thing I would think for selecting the right team is your team, your members of your team has to be customer focused. Has to be customer focused, and they must have the same passion or even a greater passion for the customer than you. Because your customer is one that will give you the information. You need to be able to find out what is going on, where your product is placed in the minds of the customer, what new ideas, and if it is your team is a reflection of your business, is a reflection of your brand, is a reflection and of your organization. And if the customer cannot see that, or there's a disconnect, you'll definitely have some challenges.
And as a spin-off to that question, I have a question for the panelists as well. As successful entrepreneurs then, what are some of the effective habits that you may have incorporated into your business to help increase productivity or boost morale?
Something I could add to this.
Yes, Mr. Perry. Sure.
As I mentioned earlier, that we try to prevent having your conventional, sort of corporate structure sort of environment when it comes to dealing with the individuals that work with us, those that work for us, and so forth. And one of the things that we just try to maintain is that we at least keep a 9 o'clock morning meeting where we will just go through whatever challenges, whatever tasks, whatever anyone's objectives are for the day, and then a 4 p.m. meeting where everyone just gives a debrief on how the day went, what things they may have come across, what are the issues they may have had, and so forth. But we try to just keep those two sort of meetings, morning and evening, each day, where everyone will just kind of just explain what their problems were. But during the day, we let everyone kind of have the flexibility to do what they sort of need to do once they manage their time well. And at least from our perspective, once again, I do know that my industry is a bit more of an unconventional industry compared to some others, where being in more of a creative sector than some other companies, a lot of individuals may think some of the practices or some of the things that we may do seem unconventional. For example, having a Friday as an entire day to play video games. They were like, how can you allocate video games on a Friday? But for us, that works because half the time we will start playing a game, and then about 20 minutes in, we start dissecting the game, how they did certain things, how they may have created something, how they would have worked in certain aspects. And then we go from playing a video game to now figuring out all that was wrong in the game and how we can make it better. But that's sort of a fun activity that the team gets involved with and so forth. And I think that's why I say from our standpoint, that's one of the things that we try to keep is the 9 o'clock meetings, 4 p.m. meetings, where we just discuss what's taking place, and then a lot of flexibility throughout the day, over the weekend, and so forth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perry. And we have a range of businesses here and entrepreneurs. So I have another question has come up. What do you consider then non-negotiable in your business? Do you have any bounds, any limits? What do you consider non-negotiable in your business? Anyone?
Well, for me, I have a code of ethics with regards to the way how we treat the others. All our certified caregivers, they do get a booklet on our policies, and one of the main things is that we will not abuse the elderly. I mean, I'm in the business of ending elder abuse.
Sure.
And so that is a huge no. I rather lose a client than risk it if I see a personality type that needs some help. And I don't believe in just firing someone or punishing them. I prefer rehabilitation because in my area, they will go out and do their own thing on their own. And that is not why I started the company. I started the company to give guidance. Guidance because so many persons think that just because you're a certified caregiver, you're supposed to know certain things. But you're looking at a 6 months course versus a registered nurse who does a 3 to 5 year course. And so we can assist each other in keeping the standard up because there is nothing in place in Trinidad and Tobago to keep an eye on these persons out there doing their own thing. Even when in nursing homes, there's nothing. So that is my foot on the ground. I absolutely will not tolerate at all. And I think it's a great question. I
Yes.
encourage all entrepreneurs to have that foot on ground stance because there's sometimes the big ticket might come, the big opportunity may come, and you may want to give up your ethics and your integrity and your morals. And it's just, if you know your boundaries, you will not cross it.
Thank you very much, Nurse Nisus. Now we are drawing to the end, unfortunately, of our webinar, but I will give Desta a few seconds for your input because I think it's important for us to hear. And maybe we'll have time for one more question.
Okay,
but,
I'll
yes,
make it
Desta.
quick. Non-negotiable for me in our business would be our labels. What we say we put in our product is what we put in our product. That is a big thing for us. If it is a customer comes to us and we can't fulfill that particular order because we don't have that raw material, we will tell you, we'll be upfront with you, we don't have that raw material. The other non-negotiable for me is being rude to customers and clients. Two negotiables. Thank you.
And for the last question, we have a specific question for Ms. Diwar. So for Ms. Diwar, given that Diwali may become or may be instituted as a federal holiday in the US, are you giving any consideration then to exporting your fashion wear to the North American market?
Well, I think Indian fashion is more than Diwali. It has like weddings, a lot. Actually, in the North American region, I think there are a lot of Indians, cultural events and so forth that happens in America as well. There are also a lot of Indian stores available with Indian clothing. But we have exported already to North America as well. We have exported as well to the the Caribbean, US and Europe. And once we are able to put our label out there and export, we are ready to export at any time and given time. Because as I said earlier, that in the Caribbean, we want to be able to put our label as made in Trinidad and Tobago. So once the avenue is there, of course, we are there to export.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dawa. And that brings us to the time that we have allotted for our webinar. We have a number of questions still to be answered, but this is only the first part of a series of webinars. We will have more panelists. As I say, in Trinidad and Tobago, we are filled with entrepreneurs, especially graduates from the University of Trinidad and Tobago. And we will have many more series like this one. We thank the viewing audience for being here. And at this time, I would like to invite the coordinator of UStart, that is the UTT Business Accelerator, Dr. Nadine Sangster, to give us a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Amirali. Walt Disney said, all dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. I want to acknowledge the courage these entrepreneurs have shown in pursuing their dreams. I sat here and I listened and I was absolutely in awe. They're graduates, they're staff of the UTT. They're some of the best that we have to offer. I want to thank them sincerely for taking the time to be here with us today and sharing their varied experiences. I also want to thank our virtual viewers for taking the time this evening to celebrate with us during this Global Entrepreneurship Week. I thank the President for his address, and I thank Mr. Amirali for moderating. You know, whenever you have to do an event, there are always a lot of people behind the scenes who work to organize and to run things. I want to thank all of those people sincerely. Now, I've only recently joined the USTAT team, but we are so looking forward to engaging with you so much more over the next year. And we want to reconnect so that we can really go after our mission, which is to contribute to the entrepreneurial development of our society. We have some very exciting plans, and we will reveal them in due course. So thank you all very much again. It was such a pleasure to be here, just to be part of this. And there are many more to come, as Ms. Samarali said. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sangster. And to our viewing audience, we encourage you to reach out to UTT. Feel free to send your emails to Dr. Sangster or to members at the USTAT. And your unanswered questions, we will get them out to our panelists and we will try our best to get an answer to you. Thank you very much for joining us.